and I'm going to speak to Jenny Manson, and who's the co-chair of Jewish Voice for Labour, to hear what she's got to say about some of these statements. Because Jenny, I found it appalling that people were on the media round were attacking Jewish Voice for Labour, but Jewish Voice for Labour had no opportunity to speak back on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play two clips.
Spell out what is being hinted at by Sakir this morning. You think even Jews who agree with Corbyn, who are arch critics of Israel and Zionism, you don't want them in the Labour Party anymore?
They have got to think again. It's not just the anti-Zionism, Nick, if I can say that. The party is fundamentally transformed. Our attitude to business has changed. Our attitude to global relations,
but you don't normally invite people to leave a party you disagree with. You're inviting them to go.
I'm inviting them to if they feel uncomfortable in a party that will not tolerate Jew hate, that supports businesses in the economy, that will support NATO on the international arena, this is not the party for them.
Question. Jewish Voice for Labour, which is, of course, a group that represents Jews that back the former Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn, say that they find today's news alarming and that Jews like them do not feel safe in Keir Starmer's Labour Party. I'm quoting now, in some Labour Party constituencies, the situation has deteriorated to the point where Jews who do not support Israel or who continue to support former Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn have become too frightened to attend party meetings for fear of intimidation and abuse. Is your message ultimately to them tough?
Basically, yes. Jewish Voice for Labour is a minute, tiny organisation. Much of their leadership has been expelled from the Labour Party because of their beliefs about other Jews. And they have said appalling and abhorrent things, and candidly made my life a misery when I was a Member of Parliament because of their indulgence of conspiracy theories and racism. So I think that this is a fringe group. I don't think they're worthy of your comment or mine. But I don't want anyone to feel unsafe in the Labour Party, but you've got to consider why you're a member of an organisation and whether they share your values. And if you're a member of an organisation that is separate to the Labour Party, that thinks that anti-Semitism was overplayed, that outlines it as a smear, that attacks other Jews, then I've got to consider why you'd want to be in the Labour Party in the first place.
Well, I'll leave it to you, Jenny.
Okay, but I'm sorry to
say to those two.
I feel quite shaky again. I really do feel quite shaky. I think that's what I said when I had to listen to that anonymous call when I was interviewed by Richard Sanders for The Crisis. I do feel shaky with sort of fear and anger and hate. Well, the experience of receiving hate. The reason I wanted to take them both together, because I wanted to go back to the background for a moment, and then I'll come back, Crispin, to how, and I won't be too long, how the two individuals dealt with those interviews, Margaret and Ruth. What I wanted to say was, let's go back a little bit to how this all happened, how Ruth and Margaret felt that they could talk to us and talk about us in this way. If you'll all remember, they made very public allegations of anti-Semitism. They publicly shamed, in one case, Jeremy Corbyn, in the other case, Mark Wadsworth. They, not very surprisingly, but not very decently in one way, because I don't support abuse, they incurred huge abuse and anger, some of it probably expressed very nastily, but some of it just correcting them, because they made allegations without evidence, not in a proper court of law like Jeffrey and I would approve of, but just screaming nasty allegations to these two people. They then suffered huge abuse. So what happens next? They want to blame someone for that abuse. So what do? They say, that abuse is anti-Semitic. They're getting at us because we're Jews. And therefore they built up their previous allegations into another load of allegations. And not only was it Jews doing to them, it was Jews in the Labour Party that was making these abuse against them. I just want to go back to the background to what's happening. The fact is that this is terrible for Jews and non-Jews everywhere. If you get a climate in which unevidenced claims are thrown around and given validity by the mainstream media, and as Jeffrey says, added into a misrepresentation of what the HRC said, I'm really worried I'm worried about real anti-Semitism happening. I'm worried about other forms of racism being neglected. So going back to what Jeffrey said, this very morning, Sonia Soda, I don't know how you pronounce her name, Soda, S-O-D-H-A, has again repeated lies like, untruths like, that the EHRC found institutional anti-Semitism. They weren't even looking for it, and they certainly never made any such declaration. So I want to go on a little bit with the background. Why are Margaret and Ruth, and I will come back to them individually, why are they having such a particular go at us? They really, I feel real hate from them against me personally and others. And I've heard from some Jews in the community who are not unsympathetic to us. I was told by one person, I'm more hated than Jeremy Corbyn. So how could this possibly be? What I think it's about, and I don't know whether you'll agree, Crispin, is that because we are Jews, we carry some weight. People are finding it a little bit harder to dismiss us. And we're daring calling it out. And one of the things that we've called out from the very beginning is the idea that there was a particular problem of anti-Semitism in the Labour Party under Corbyn. There wasn't. And it looks like it's pretty hard for people who are non-Jews to say that. I respect that. It's pretty hard for them to do it. And it also looks a bit odd that we think we're right and everybody else is wrong. So that as the EHRC has been misrepresented, people think that the EHRC found huge anti-Semitism under Corbyn, which they didn't. People don't look at the evidence that I, with colleagues, including Alan Madison, who's here today, we've looked at the evidence, and there is not any pronounced anti-Semitism under Jeremy. But what with that and the BBC Panorama programme, it's considered to be a truth that no one, and there are we saying it's not true. And more than that, we've actually built up a reputation, and we built up a large membership, despite what Ruth has said. And then, this is the final general point, we come up with the extraordinary fact that we're being targeted more than anybody else. And if you look at our latest tables, which we published, the safest big number we can go to, because we know how many Jewish JVL members are. We have to estimate how many Jews are in the Labour Party, but we know how many proscriptions have been, people expelled because of so-called, and we know how many Jews, and these are the percentages on that, the ratios. If you're a full Jewish Voice for Labour member, you're 63 times more likely than any other member of the Labour Party to be expelled for so-called support for prescribed group. Many of the prescribed groups, by the way, as you all know, are heavily Jewish groups who are arguing the same as we were. If you're a member of our executive committee, you're 460 times more likely. I mean, it's kind of farcical. So do you want me to pause for a minute? I'll come on to these two particular interviews.
Please do go on. I mean, go on to the particular. I mean, what Margaret Hodge's interview there. I mean, can I just say something before you carry on? You said to me that I should be careful because Margaret Hodge is a little bit likes a lawyer here and there, but we've got good lawyers. We've got good lawyers on here, and we've got one of the best here. We've got a KC.
No. I'm not. Nothing I'm saying or anything you're saying is at all. No, I'm.
Okay, thank you. I'm not worried. I haven't got any assets, but anyway, carry on.
Let me go back. I heard. I'm responsible, says I conceitedly, for the Margaret interview because I rang up Today programme on the morning of Wednesday, at 6 o'clock, and happened to get somebody good on the Today programme, and I sent our statement, and that's what Nick Robinson was referring to. And I didn't think Nick Robinson didn't at least build up the abuse against us. I felt, and this is just a personal comment, I felt that Margaret felt a little bit trapped and was uneasy. I didn't get the same feeling with her that she got. I felt she was uneasy. She then fell, though, into another trap, as we all noticed, a politically fascinating trap about the fact that the same sort of people like us, probably, are likely to be expellable and not good in the party because of our views on business and globalization and NATO. And I would guess she's thinking of Ukraine as well. So politically, it was a very interesting interview, I think, because as many people have said, this was the most explicit example we've had of just who the Labour Party doesn't want. It doesn't want anyone who questions private enterprise and excessive support for capitalism. It doesn't want anybody who questions NATO, and it doesn't want anyone who I would guess she's thinking of people who are very worried about the Ukrainian war continuing in this way. So I thought that's what I wanted to say about the Margaret interview in particular.
Yeah, she's kind of scrambled a lot of different things together to say it's not just about this, it's about this and about this and about this.
Yes.
Which is a bit confusing to me. I thought it was a bit confusing what she said there.
So did I. As I say, I thought, now when it comes...
But I won't say anything that will get me in trouble other than that.
Okay, it was the Ruth Smeeth interview, though, that got me to write to the BBC, and I do know that they are looking into it, because I wrote to complain that, just as you say, that we didn't get a right to reply. And Ruth Smeeth said things about us as just untrue. I mean, apart from saying we're titchy little nobodies, and we have around 1,100 members, and NAMI says that we've got 24,000 Twitter following, which is, I gather, bigger than the JLM's. So this idea is, first, we're so tiny and so radical and so fringe, we're of no interest. And on the other hand, we are the butt of so much hate. Then she went on to say stuff that just is not true. She said that leading members have been expelled from the Labour Party because of their beliefs about other Jews. We don't like Jews. I mean, we don't like our family. We don't like our children. We don't like these Jews we work with. We indulge conspiracy theories and racism. Anybody who looks at our site will know we're incredibly careful. And some conspiracy theories aren't actually anti-Semitic, but our education group spends a lot of time discussing where the borderline between anti-Semitism and conspiracy is very, very sensitive line, and we're incredibly careful. Then they said that we've said appalling and abhorrent things about, I don't know who, and that we attack other Jews. Well, people will know that, sorry, attack other Jews, it's a big one, that we were interviewed a lot back in 2017, 18, 19, when we were important, because they needed somebody to defend Jeremy Corbyn, and we were the only people willing to do so, and several of us were on a lot. And people will have noticed as well, none of us abused anybody. When I was on, people thought I was too polite. I tried to keep to the point, but I never said a word against any individual person. It's everything is, it doesn't work very well. So we are demanding a right to reply from the BBC. We have been told that they are going to come back to us on it. I'm hoping that NAMI or I or one of our media team will be invited on, and where we will address the facts of this case, and try to keep away from personal abuse. I mean, that's enough really, but I say it does make me shaky. I feel the thing about not being safe, the line in our statement about not being safe, I think Mike Cushman wrote that little bit, we were working together. I don't go to constituent Labour Party meetings anymore, I haven't gone for a long time. A lot of people I know don't go, I'm still in the party. I don't feel safe. I felt very unsafe at party conference. I happened to be there where Louise Ellman was cheered back into the party last time I'd been in. And the people along my row were all standing up and cheering, and they started to look at me because I wasn't. I felt frightened, actually. I walked out. We don't feel safe.
I can understand why. If you're getting attacked on the media in this way and caricatured in some way, this conspiracy theorist thing is a new line of attack. I think other people have used that to undermine Jewish Voice for Labour as well in some of the things I've read. Thank you, Jenny, and you're always welcome on here, and you're safe here. Thank you.